swirling mass of frigid air circling the North Pole could potentially change the Earth's climate? Imagine a chill so intense it could tweak our weather patterns, even alter our world's climate. This is no science fiction, but the fascinating reality of the polar vortex. A phenomenon so powerful, it has scientists across the globe intrigued and slightly apprehensive. What exactly is this polar vortex? How does it work? And why should we care? Join us on this journey as we unravel the mysteries of the polar vortex. To understand the potential impact of the polar vortex, first, we need to comprehend what it is. The polar vortex isn't a recent phenomenon or the product of some science fiction movie. It's a weather pattern that's been around for millions of years. The term polar vortex refers to a massive upper atmosphere cyclone that forms over the Earth's polar regions during their respective winters. Picture this: our planet spinning on its axis, generating winds that whip around the poles. These winds, influenced by the rotation of the Earth, create a vortex. This vortex, however, is not your everyday whirlwind. It's a colossal, frigid cyclone that hovers about 20 kilometers above the ground, in the layer of the atmosphere known as the stratosphere. This is the polar vortex. The polar vortex is incredibly cold with temperatures that can plunge to -70 degrees Celsius. That's colder than the surface of Mars. The vortex is usually stable, with its freezing winds spinning in a counterclockwise direction around the North Pole. It acts like a giant wall, trapping the bone-chilling air within the Arctic. But what happens when this wall weakens? When the vortex is strong, it keeps the cold air locked up in the Arctic. But when it weakens, it can become distorted and the cold air can spill out, rushing towards lower latitudes. That's when we start feeling the bite of the polar vortex in our daily lives, with frigid temperatures and intense winter storms. The polar vortex is not a static entity. It ebbs and flows, strengthens and weakens, and shifts its position. These changes are driven by a complex interplay of atmospheric dynamics and thermal contrasts between the polar regions and the mid-latitudes. So, it's not the existence of the polar vortex that's concerning. It's the changes in its behavior that are causing scientists to take a closer look. These changes could potentially be linked to broader climate trends and have far-reaching implications for our weather and our planet. So that's the polar vortex for you. A whirl of cold air spinning around the North Pole. But what happens when this cold whirl decides to leave its home, the North Pole? Well, to put it simply, we get a taste of the Arctic's icy breath. The polar vortex, usually a well-behaved resident of the North Pole, can sometimes split or shift. Now, this doesn't mean that the vortex itself moves, but rather its impact zone changes. This is a result of pressure and temperature changes in the atmosphere, which can force the vortex to stretch and deform, causing the cold air to spill into lower latitudes. It's like a bowl of icy soup sloshing around. Normally, the soup stays contained within the bowl. But when the bowl is jostled, the soup can spill out, spread, and cool everything it touches. The same thing happens with the polar vortex. When it's disrupted, the icy air doesn't stay contained within the Arctic Circle. It spills out, bringing extreme winter conditions to areas that are not typically affected. These disruptions can lead to some pretty severe weather. We're talking biting cold winds, heavy snowfall, and freezing temperatures. The kind that can turn a mild winter into a deep freeze. And these events are not just fleeting moments of chill. They can last for weeks, disrupting normal life and causing significant impact on agriculture, infrastructure, and the economy. But it's not all about the cold. The shifting of the polar vortex can also cause unusual warming events in the Arctic. While we're shivering down here, the North Pole can be basking in temperatures that are above average for the season. So the next time you find yourself bundling up against an unexpected cold snap, remember, it could be the polar vortex saying hello. The icy winds that whip through your town could be the same ones that were swirling around the North Pole just a few days ago. It's a chilling reminder of how interconnected our global weather system is. And that's when we feel the chill. even in regions that are typically spared the harsh winters. But here's the million-dollar question. Is our climate change affecting the behavior of the polar vortex? The answer to this question is a resounding yes. Numerous studies have suggested that climate change is indeed influencing the behavior of the polar vortex. But how does this happen, and what does it mean for us? Let's start by looking at the Arctic, where the polar vortex originates. The Arctic is warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. This rapid warming, often referred to as Arctic amplification, reduces the temperature difference between the Arctic and lower latitudes. Now, why is this temperature difference important? Well, this temperature contrast is what drives the jet stream, a high-altitude wind that circles the northern hemisphere and effectively corrals the polar vortex. As the temperature difference shrinks due to Arctic amplification, the jet stream weakens and becomes wavier. This waviness can cause the polar vortex to become unstable, allowing frigid Arctic air to spill into lower latitudes. But it's not just about colder winters. A destabilized polar vortex can also lead to more extreme and erratic weather patterns year-round. We're talking heat waves, heavy rainfall, prolonged dry spells, the works. Research also suggests a link between a warming Arctic and a phenomenon known as sudden stratospheric warming events. These events, characterized by a rapid rise in stratospheric temperatures over the Arctic, can split the polar vortex into two or more vortices, causing even more extreme winter weather in the northern hemisphere. Climate change and the polar vortex are locked in a complex dance, each influencing the other in ways we're only beginning to understand. The ripple effects of this interaction are far-reaching, affecting not just our weather, but our ecosystems, agriculture, and even our health. Indeed, the interaction between the polar vortex and climate change is more intricate than we ever imagined. Now that we understand the complex relationship between the polar vortex and climate change, what does this mean for our future? Well, let's dig into what scientists predict. The future impact of the polar vortex on Earth's climate could be substantial. As the Arctic warms, the polar vortex is likely to become more unstable. This instability can lead to more frequent polar vortex events, where frigid polar air spills into lower latitudes, causing extreme weather conditions. Research indicates that these events may become more common and more intense in the future due to the warming of the Arctic. This means that we might be seeing more of those bone-chilling winters, with temperatures dropping drastically in a matter of hours and snowfall reaching unprecedented levels in some regions. But it's not just about colder winters. The polar vortex can also influence other weather patterns around the globe. Some scientists speculate that a destabilized polar vortex could lead to more extreme weather events in general. This includes not only colder winters, but also hotter, drier summers and potentially even more severe storms. It's important to remember that while we're making strides in understanding the polar vortex, it's a complex system influenced by a myriad of factors. Climate models are continually being refined and updated to better predict the vortex's behavior and its subsequent impact on our climate. The potential consequences of a wobbly polar vortex extend beyond just our weather. It could impact our agriculture, our infrastructure, even our health. We're talking about potential disruptions to food supply due to crop failures, challenges in energy supply due to increased demand, and increased health risks due to extreme cold. So, as we look towards the future, the polar vortex is more than just a meteorological curiosity. It's a critical component of our climate system, one that we need to understand better as we navigate the challenges of a changing climate. While the future of our climate remains uncertain, one thing is clear: the polar vortex will play a significant role in shaping it. So is the next ice age near? Well, that's a question even scientists are grappling with. In our quest for answers, we've journeyed into the heart of the polar vortex, uncovering its mysterious science and unusual behavior. We've seen how this swirling mass of cold air, normally confined to the polar regions, can sometimes break free and plunge into lower latitudes, causing extreme weather events. We've also explored the intricate link between the polar vortex and climate change. As the Earth warms, the polar vortex weakens, becoming more unstable and prone to disruptions. These disruptions could usher in periods of severe winter weather and potentially alter long-term weather patterns. Looking to the future, the impact of the polar vortex is likely to become even more significant. As our planet continues to warm, the behavior of the polar vortex could change in unpredictable ways, affecting weather and climate across the globe. The study of the polar vortex is a rapidly evolving field, with new research and predictions emerging all the time. It's a fascinating area of science that has far-reaching implications for our understanding of the Earth's climate system. While we may not have all the answers yet, understanding the polar vortex is a crucial step towards preparing for our planet's future. Stay curious, stay informed,